Good evening, and welcome to Bedtime Biographies, where history's most remarkable lives unfold in the gentle hours before sleep. Tonight we journey back to 20th century China, where ancient traditions collide with modern ambitions, and where 1 billion lives would be shaped by one man's vision. His name was Mao Zedong. His legacy? Well, that depends on who you ask. To some, he was the great helmsman who steered China from humiliation to power. To others, he was the architect of catastrophes that claimed more lives than both world wars combined. Before we begin tonight's journey, please take a moment to like and subscribe. It really helps other sleepy souls find these stories. And let us know in the comments which historical figure we should explore next. Now, Mao gets invoked constantly these days, but strip away the propaganda and the horror stories, and you find something more unsettling. A brilliant peasant boy who read himself into revolution, who understood power better than perhaps anyone, and who genuinely believed he could redesign human nature itself. So settle in now and let your mind drift back through time, across oceans and continents, to a China that was ancient and dying and about to be reborn in fire. Let the day's concerns fade as we explore how one man's will could bend the arc of history, for better and for worse, forever changing not just China, but the very idea of what revolution could mean. This is the bedtime biography of Mao Zedong. Chapter 1. The Foster Child of the Bodhisattva. In the winter of 1893, in a small village tucked into the hills of Hunan province, a woman knelt before a shrine. Her name was Wen Qimei. She'd already buried 2 sons. The grief had carved hollows beneath her eyes, left her nights sleepless with worry that the gods had forgotten her entirely. So she prayed to Guan Yin, the Bodhisattva of compassion. Not just any prayer, but something more desperate, more binding. She asked the goddess to become her next child's foster mother, to wrap this baby in divine protection, to keep death from visiting her door again. 3 days later, on December 26th, her 3rd son arrived, screaming into the world. She named him Zedong, the dawn of the East, though perhaps she should have noticed how the winter wind rattled the windows that night, how even the midwife remarked on the child's unusual stubbornness, refusing to emerge until well past midnight. The boy would grow up in a house at war with itself. His father, Mao Zedong, was what you might call a self-made tyrant. He'd clawed his way from debt to become a rich peasant, dealing grain with the ruthlessness of a man who tasted poverty and found it bitter. Every grain of rice was counted. Every moment of idleness was punished with the back of his hand. Young Zedong learned the architecture of power before he could properly write his own name. His father was the ruling power, as he'd later call it. His mother, his younger brother, and himself formed what he termed the opposition. It sounds almost playful when you say it like that, but there was nothing playful about the welts on his back. the curses that rained down for reading by candlelight, the constant accusations of laziness and disrespect. Here's what shaped him, in that drafty farmhouse where the cooking smoke never quite cleared. He watched his gentle Buddhist mother submit, again and again, to his father's rage. He felt the sting of helplessness, that particular poison that enters the blood when you're small and someone large is hurting someone you love. And he made a decision that would echo through Chinese history. Submission was death. Rebellion was the only way to survive. By 13, he'd quit the local school rather than endure another beating from the teacher. His father raged, of course, but Zedong had discovered something more powerful than his father's fists. Books. Hidden away at night, reading by oil lamp while his father slept, he devoured stories of emperors and rebels, of kingdoms that rose and fell on the strength of a single man's will. The foster child of the Bodhisattva was learning his first lessons in revolution, not from Marx or Lenin, those would come later, but from the simple, brutal education of a house divided against itself, where love and cruelty shared the same roof, where survival meant choosing a side. Chapter 2. The Threshold of a New World. His father arranged the marriage when Zedong was 14. The bride, Luo Yigu, was 4 years older, a distant cousin with a gentle face and calloused hands. The wedding proceeded according to ancient custom. Red banners hung from the doorways. The matchmaker collected her fee. Everyone pretended not to notice the groom's clenched jaw, the way his eyes searched for exits like a trapped animal. Zedong refused to consummate the marriage. He wouldn't share her bed, wouldn't even share her table. When his father threatened him with violence, he threatened right back. When the village elders came to lecture him about duty and tradition, he laughed in their faces. Finally, he simply disappeared into the mountains for a year, leaving his humiliated bride to face the whispers alone. She died of dysentery 3 years later. He never mentioned her again, except once, decades later, to dismiss the whole affair as feudal nonsense. But perhaps in those quiet moments before sleep, he remembered her face, the way she'd looked at him on their wedding day, hopeful despite everything, another casualty of his war against the old world. At 16, something shifted. Maybe it was the book he'd found, Words of Warning to an Affluent Age, with its visions of a modernized China. Maybe it was simply the unbearable weight of staying still. He convinced his father to let him attend the Dongshan Higher Primary School, 15 miles from home. His father agreed, but only after extracting promises of future profits from his son's education. The morning he left, Zedong composed a poem. Not a particularly good poem, but one that revealed everything about the boy who would become Mao. "My studies will bring me glory," he wrote, "and I'll never return to this place." He meant it. The village that had birthed him would see him again, only as a conqueror. At Dongshan, he was a curiosity, a peasant boy among the merchants' sons, wearing patched clothes that marked him as clearly as a brand. His Shangtan dialect drew snickers. His gangly frame, already approaching 6 feet, made him impossible to ignore. The other boys called him the Wild One from Shaoshan. But here's what they didn't understand. Every sneer, every whispered joke, every moment of exclusion was being carefully catalogued in that remarkable mind. He was learning how humiliation worked, how class worked, how power flowed through seemingly innocent social interactions. He was taking notes on empire, even if he didn't know it yet. He found his weapon